Hey everyone, it's Kari, the Little Missouri Mama, and today I thought I would do a video that was actually pretty well requested. Last week on Instagram I posted that I was making beer cheese, and a lot of people were curious, what is beer cheese? For the people who knew what beer cheese was, they were asking, well, how do you make it? And so I decided, you know what? I think I'm gonna do a tutorial. So this is actually a beer cheese that my husband and I both came up with after we went to Founders Brewery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My husband is a foodie and I like bouncing ideas off of him. So when we went to our honey day, which is what I call our honeymoon because we only went over there for a couple hours after we got married. So when we went on our honey day, we had some beer cheese. And we were sitting there the entire time trying to figure out, what is in this? What is this? We decided that we were going to test it and see what we could figure it out as being. So this is what we came up with. Funny enough, after my husband and I actually figured out our recipe that we wanted to do and that we thought was very, very similar, Founders released their recipe, and we realized that it's actually pretty darn close. So, for those of you who look up the Founders recipe, which I will link below, it is very similar, but my husband and I figured it out on our own, I guess I would say. It is inspired by the Founders Brewery cheese, beer cheese. So, first and foremost, what I'm doing right now, I am getting ready to prep the garlic. Alright, here are the garlic cloves. I'm just gonna cut them. Now, why do I have this griddle covered with a paper towel? Because my cutting board is currently drying. So, get this. Sorry, guys. I'm so fancy. And now, honestly, my husband usually will chop his garlic a heck of a lot more, like a heck of a lot nicer. But I will be totally honest with you. I don't care. Now, what I just did there is probably something you should never do. Run your finger down on a blade like that. But I'm lucky and I've never been cut. However, I am going to say, just for liability's sake, do not do that. Here's the garlic. Now, because I don't need it yet, I'm actually going to put it right there. Get a second paper towel, put that down, and get my personal favorite part of this whole thing. The fire roasted peppers. Now, I believe the Founders recipe just says red pepper, but I have personally found that fire roasted bell peppers, or grill roasted, whatever you feel like saying, are absolutely incredible when it comes to all of this. So, personally, we also like a ton of peppers. So, we use a lot of peppers. There's actually 3 peppers here. I think I'm only going to use these 2. Now that I've sufficiently messed up my griddle, I'm going to toss it over to the side. Put all the stuff on it that I need. Not so much in varying orders of importance, but you will see. Now, I personally, just because it's cream cheese and usually you're taking it right out of the fridge to use it, I like to heat my pan up a little bit. Let the pan heat, and then I'm going to toss the cream cheese in. So while the pan is heating, I'm opening up the 2 boxes of cream. Seriously, there's 3 boxes of cream cheese here. Why do we need 3 boxes? Philadelphia, why do you need 3 boxes for this dual pack? I bought it for less packaging. Now that the pan is sufficiently heated, I turn it down to low. Now again, why do I do that? Because, again, usually the cream cheese is actually pretty hard, and it's something you do want to soften relatively quickly. Now, I am making a double batch here. You are more than welcome to cut it in half. All the stuff that I will be doing, you are more than welcome to cut it in half. And when you cut it in half, it will make just as wonderful of a batch. But trust me when I say it goes very quickly. As you can hear, it is sizzling. What I'm going to do is I am going to use this spatula to kind of cut down the cream cheese. And again, the pan was heated, but now it is on low, so it's basically just keeping the pan warm while I do this. So, that's usually about how far I cut them down, at least a little bit. The most important part of the beer. I personally prefer to use Founder's Centennial IPA. You are more than welcome to use whatever IPA you prefer. Please notice I said IPA, India Pale Ale. India Pale Ales are generally a very bland taste beer, but they have a very high hop content. That has to do with the fact that when the British Empire was trying to ship beer over to India, they needed a beer that basically wouldn't go bad, or as beers people call it, it wouldn't skunk. So they brewed beer with very, very high hop contents and made something called India Ales. India Pale Ales do not have a taste really except for hop. It makes it a very, very good cooking beer. So, you will want to add, I usually say about 1/3 of the beer. Just straight up. That's at first, and then you want to make sure you're still cutting your cream cheese down. Sometimes here I might add some milk. I don't know how I feel about that right now. I'll let you know in a little while. But I will say this, if you are using cream cheese, you want something with a fat content. You do not really want to use fat-free cream cheese for this. I am very sorry. This is one of those things that needs the fat. Definitely get the regular fat cream cheese. It interacts better with the beer. I tried making it with fat-free once. It didn't go well. I would assume, possibly, I'm not really sure about low-carb beers. So I would assume you could possibly do this with a low-carb beer, but it would have to be an India Pale Ale, or at least an India Ale. I've never tried it with anything other than an India Pale Ale. I've used All Day from Founders. Really, I should say I've never tried it with anything that wasn't Founders. So, I have used All Day and I've used Centennial. And let me just say, they are both perfect. Alright, as you can see, the cream cheese is starting to cause this to thicken quite nicely. So, guess what? You're going to want to add more beer. There is a reason for that. You want it to thicken while it's cooking, not because the cream cheese is melting, if that makes sense. You want this to thicken while the flavors are being melded into it. So, and again, making sure that it is on low. You want to do this pretty low and slow. At least if you can. This is okay if you have to do it fast. This is actually a pretty quick thing to do, but it's one of those things where it is so much the better if you can do it low and slow. Next up, you're going to want to add Italian seasonings. You're going to want to add Italian seasonings. This may be an Italian seasoned blend, such as what I have here. Or you may have your own Italian seasonings that you know and like to use, whatever. And personally, I use generous helpings. It's what we like. Pretty much for me, whenever I'm cooking, I will always say season to taste because everyone has a completely different flavor profile that they like. I personally go heavy on the Italian seasonings. So, that's what I add next. And after that will be the garlic. And again, that was about 2 cloves worth. Quick thing for those of you, because I've heard a lot of horror stories, quick thing for those of you who are not familiar with garlic, cloves are the pieces, bulbs are the whole thing. Want to add some garlic salt, and I know you're sitting there wondering, why did you just add garlic salt when you have garlic? Personally, I think that the salt part of it helps bring out the flavor. And honestly, we're kind of the opinion in this family that you can't have too much garlic. If you wanted to, I'm sure you could substitute garlic powder. I personally never have. I'm sure if you wanted to, you could use solely garlic salt. Whatever. You do you. Still cooking it low and slow. Want to make sure that all the junk gets out. All the clumps. Alright. So the next thing you're going to want clean hands for. The next thing is going to be a metric ton, because my husband likes a metric ton, of these lovely, lovely little pieces of spinach. Now, you can cut them. You absolutely can. That's not a problem. If you want to cut them, more power to you. Or you can just be like me and not give a crap. And shred them with your hands. Or you can just be like me and not care and shred them with your hands. Alright. So the next thing you're going to want clean hands for. The next thing is going to be a metric ton, because my husband likes a metric ton, of these lovely, lovely little pieces of spinach. Now, you can cut them. You absolutely can. That's not a problem. If you want to cut them, more power to you. Or you can just be like me and not give a crap. And shred them with your hands. Or you can just be like me and not care and shred them with your hands. If you're going to cook for more people than just your immediate family, absolutely cut them. But personally, we're the only ones eating this, and I really don't want to get the knife out and move everything back again. So my husband, like I said, loves spinach. So I'm putting in a ton of spinach. Yours may vary. You may not like spinach. You may love spinach more than me. I actually like spinach, but I don't know. I never really think about using it. All right. And now to the fun part. The peepers. Now you may notice that the skin on the peppers, I call them peepers. You may notice that the skin on the peepers is still connected in some spots. I think that's fine. That's just me. It'll come apart as you're stirring. Gouda cheese. Now you can get slices, you can get actual like chunks of cheese, whatever floats your boat. My husband got slices. Oops. My husband got slices. Now for us, I usually put in about 6 slices for a double batch. So it would be about 3 for a regular batch. And again, personally, I think I screwed up. I should have put the Gouda in right after I put in the Parmesan, or right after I put in the cream cheese. I should have put the Gouda in. But whatever, it'll melt anyway. I got about 1/3 of a Founders here. Depending on who is having it, I would add either the rest of the beer or I would let my husband drink it. Alright guys, sorry about that. My mom called and then my camera died. So, I guess, really I showed you guys, I put in the Parmesan and that was probably a decent amount. I don't really measure how much Parmesan I put in. I would honestly have to say there's at least a 1/4 cup in there whenever I do make it. So I would say I probably put in about a 1/2 cup, or I will put in about a 1/2 cup. Also, I do keep adding Italian seasoning because we like a lot of Italian seasoning. Your mileage may vary. So like right now, I'm actually putting in Italian seasoning. People are probably going to be giving me flack and saying, IPAs are not bland, why did you say that? And what I mean when I say that IPAs are bland is that to me, they do not have a flavor outside of hops. Which means if you want the taste of beer in something, an IPA is a very good thing to have. Unlike a porter, for example, it will not have that dark chocolatey taste. Fruit beers generally have more of a fruity flavor to them. IPAs are pretty much straight beer flavored. They're straight hops flavored. So if you want something to have the flavor of beer in it, like a beer cheese, you'll want to go more with an IPA. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope I've stopped offending all of the beer snobs that are going to be watching this. Like my husband, I know him. He's going to find this and he's going to watch it. And he's going to ask me, why did you say that, honey? Work with me here, honey. I'm not a beer person. I just work with the beers that you give me. We're going to let this kind of sit and simmer. I have it just above medium on mine. You gotta make sure to stir. Gotta make sure, gotta stir. Because this stuff will stick and it will burn. And you will be very, very, very sad. So, what I'm gonna do is give you a little view of this. You can see it is starting to thicken up even though I've got the lid on it, but you want it way thicker than that. You can see how it's just dripping right off. You want it way thicker than that. You want it to be a cheese dip. That's what it is. It is a cheese dip. So you want it to be about the thickness of a cheese dip. So, I'm just going to kind of cut this off right here for now. Once I get it up to where I want it, I'll come back, I'll turn this on, and I will show you what all I mean. by taking the lid off and just letting liquid boil out. So, alright, I am back. Now, I do not know how well you guys can see this, but if you can, this is actually very foamy. What that means is, honestly, I probably still had it up too high, even though I thought I had it pretty low. Whatever. That's fine. What you do on that is you put the heat down, and you continue to let it go. It simply needs to thicken up. That is all you need, is for it to thicken. As you can see, the foam has actually gone away, and it is starting to thicken up again a little more, as you can see, but it is still incredibly wet. But you can see the drips are actually starting to string together a little more. I actually forgot to say it. The bubbles, to me, generally speaking, when I see the bubbles, that means I know it's time for me to take the lid off and just let the stuff boil itself out. So I turn the heat down to just above simmer. On my stove, I have a little thing where it tells me where simmer is, and that's right above low. But it's just under 2. Alright, so hey guys, I am being rushed into finishing up my stuff. So, all I want to do is show you, as you can see, this has actually thickened up quite nicely. It's no longer super runny, it's just runny. So it's getting to where I want it, but I'm being rushed into it. So, what I'm going to do, put the oven on bake for 375. Mine runs slightly hot, so it's actually probably closer, I would say, to 380, but I don't care. Once the oven preheats, I am going to shove this into the oven and I'll let it bake for a little bit. Once it is all done baking, which should probably be, honestly, it'll probably be about 5 minutes baking, and then I will broil it, high broil, specifically, for probably about a minute, not even a minute, just enough to get a nice golden crust on the top. Now you can just make it on the stovetop and serve it. That's how I used to make it. Just make it on the stovetop. I have no qualms with that. Like I said, that's how I made it for probably about 2-3 years. And then I found that putting it in the oven and putting it on broil gave it a really good crisp top. But our personal favorite is throw it on the grill and let it get some smoke. Let it get some of the grill flavors to it. So, that's just us, though. Anyway, so I am going to simply let this cook for a little bit longer until the oven preheats. Once the oven's done preheating, I'm going to toss it in, and I will show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven, because my husband is starting to get antsy and he wants his kitchen back. Alright guys, I gotta make this quick because my husband is currently heavy breathing over my shoulder, and I am going to... Stop it! So, this is what it looks like after you do the broil. It does have a little bit of a crust. When you pull it out, it'll probably be a little bit wet and wobbly. Stop it! So, anyway, this is the beer cheese. I promise it will taste delicious. I promise. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe. Don't forget, if you want to, you can drop a comment down below. Definitely let me know if you try this. I want to hear how other people feel about it. So, if you want to, you can also hit me up on Instagram, on my Twitter, or on my blog. The links to which are all in the description box down below. And, as always, have a good one. Bye. Stop!